You're listening to Consulting Logistics, Home Edition, presented by Aborn Company. I'm your host, MacNaught. Thanks for checking us out. Here are 5 things I've learned from shippers about coronavirus challenges and best practices. Number 1, at the beginning, getting service and what is it going to cost was top of mind for most shippers. And this makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Most of a shipper's job is understanding the marketplace and hopefully budgeting correctly. Events like produce season, natural disasters, or Chinese New Year's are major game changers when it comes to securing freight and keeping it at a reasonable price. What we were hearing early on was this idea that paying more by shipping air was a good way to get the product in customers' hands faster. We also know that intermodal was important, and it was just a good, reliable way because nothing was kind of shutting down with that, but it did take some time. We also heard how important communication with carriers was, as some companies were having success in raising their tender acceptance rates by letting truckers know that they're a no-touch facility. The major talking point was, how much is it going to cost me, though? Early on, we believed, or the whole kind of group believed, that we could see an increase of upwards of 20%. Now, don't get me wrong, we heard plenty of talking about keeping employees safe and creating policies to assist in the overall safety of everyone, but cost was absolutely top of mind early on. Number 2, warehouses and DC operations were a surprising major issue. Keeping warehouse and distribution center employees safe and operational was a major challenge as the coronavirus continued. Policies had to be quickly put in place, and finding resources was a challenge. Not everyone was meeting that challenge, and plenty of DCs were starting to operate at 50% or even closing completely. The issue is something that is still kind of going on, is that as overseas suppliers are starting to ramp back up into production, finding locations to hold that supply and production while the larger DCs eventually open again will become a major hurdle. Additionally, having reliable information and communicating said information back to truckers is critical. Shippers were playing a middleman role, sort of, between the two players, warehouses and truckers, and needed to make sure that what was expected of both parties was clearly communicated. Number 3, trusted information was a vital commodity, and data was the ultimate ace up the sleeve. Something that stood out a lot to me was the lack of trust from media sources and others when it just came to information regarding the market. This was a great quote from a participant. Quote, "Anecdotal information right now isn't very helpful as there's so much noise in the media and around the world." End quote. There was a huge importance laid on numbers and trends. Shippers that had invested in technology and data earlier were reaping the benefits during this time. And some of the strongest conversations with carriers, customers, and partners occurred when the talk centered around numbers. One example in particular that was brought up was pricing. When pricing started coming up for some of the companies, ensuring that they weren't being taken advantage of in the bids was a major concern. They were trying to be good of supporting the carriers, especially in the short term as rates continued to stay high. But when they asked the carriers for a medium or long-term pricing, they were seeing a wide variety of results coming back. By identifying past data on similar lanes and utilizing various software integrations, they were able to access roughly 65 billion of annual freight cost data to forecast and benchmark bids. Number 4, while we're starting to see some stability, long-term ramifications are coming. Besides obvious stuff like when will people feel safe to come back to an office or a warehouse, there's some things that are going to trickle down. One thing, for instance, as companies close up shop, we're going to start seeing carriers that were operating on shoestring budgets also shut down. But that's the small guys. Still a bad thing. It's also going to affect the larger guys, as the larger carriers will have to do some layoffs to just survive. What that means is there will be suspensions of services, like guaranteed programs, just because of how difficult it is to achieve this type of stuff with the limited amount of resources and workers. There also will be longer delays and longer deliveries. Getting accurate information is difficult. And with employees top of mind, especially employee safety, there'll have to be sacrifices. A timeline is just going to be one of them. Entire processes and philosophies when it comes to moving freight are going to need to be shifted. It seems like companies that were already thinking about this and investing in the future were more resilient to this issue. If there was ever a time to rethink your operation and make it more agile, it's now. Number 5, invest in strategies that make you more efficient and ready for a similar event. Everything's a learning opportunity, and a once in a lifetime pandemic is no exception. There will be millions of lessons learned once things begin to calm down and companies begin to bring employees back. But a supply chain professional that's keeping up with the market, investing in things like data and technology, and having an open and honest conversation regarding their processes is going to be set up to approach challenging events like this in the future. So there they are. 5 things I've learned from shippers about the coronavirus challenges and best practices. And again, here they are in their order. Number 1, at the beginning, getting service and what was it going to cost was top of mind. Number 2, warehouse and DC operations were a surprising major issue. Number 3, trusted information was a vital commodity and data was the ultimate ace up the sleeve. Number 4, while we're starting to see some stability, long-term ramifications are coming. Number 5, invest in strategies that make you more efficient and ready for a similar event. And that's our show. Let me know, is there something that you learned during the coronavirus pandemic that helped you as a shipper? Let us know in the comments section of this video. And in the meantime, subscribe and like the channel. Thanks for watching Consultant Logistics. I'm MacNaught. Rock and roll.